I want to talk to you about my friend Charlie Crawford. He's a 10-time NFR qualifier.
Charlie Crawford, time to just shake it out and win. Got it on him fast, set
there
up.
We are.
Here's a day
nice
money
run.
lead. You betcha 3-8.
That's an absolute perfect run. Timing was perfect from the time the first swing is up. He's got the control. Charlie made it happen by being timed up with his horse with the steer, and being able to not just rope, but to pick that steer's head up without changing the momentum for the heeler at all.
We know his beautiful wife, Jackie, all three of their beautiful children, the founder of the Liberty and Loyalty Foundation, which this year will exceed $1 million raised for military and first responders. I've said it 1,000 times. Charlie, it's time to rope, nod and ride, whip and spur. I want to welcome you to the Charlie Crawford Podcast. Let's ride.
All right, we're on. Well, right now, everyone, we got Miles Baker and Trevor Brazile. This is Miles. I was starting with you, and because you never know if Trevor's gonna as busy as he is, and then we end up being able to sneak him on the podcast. So, got to come up here and come rope with you guys, and it was awesome getting to watch you guys get ready for a futurity. And thank you guys for the time to come on the podcast. Appreciate
yes, sir.
it.
Thanks for having us.
Trev, man, you guys' horses look so good. Is this your second futurity back? You had shoulder surgery earlier this year, correct?
Yes. Each one feels a little bit better. I went to two the same weekend, and only thing I found out is I wasn't as ready as I thought I was yet. In a controlled environment at home, it felt good. And going there, the situation was a little bit more realistic, obviously, and full contact. And more so in the healing, I felt it not being able to keep up time with a lot of the steers and the situations. But I feel like I'm closer now than I was then. So looking for a little better result.
So what happened to your shoulder?
Just two rotator tendons. My bicep tendon was redone. Labrum. They remodeled my collarbone. They kind of one-stop shopped it and got it all feeling good right now.
And is that from just the wear and tear for
the
time you started roping?
I think so. I feel like I was really fortunate to have had as lengthy of a career as I've had and not have any more surgeries. That was my first surgery since I was 18. And
what'd you have in surgery then?
I had a horse fall on me and had a couple ankle surgeries to get that lined out. And other than that, it was something that I could manage, whether it be stem cells or injections or something, or just time off. Any other injuries I've had, torn MCL, luckily not an ACL, and that was just time off. And so I've definitely dodged some bullets, been really blessed as far as health-wise to be able to maintain a career like that without having multiple surgeries in the middle of it.
Yeah, and not hardly, as I think about your career, and I don't think you ever really had a year off that I know of. From the time you made it in the heeling, and then the calf roping, and then the heading, and then steer roping, and from your reign of when you started really going at it, I don't remember a year where you really had to take any time off. Didn't seem like. If it wasn't much.
Yeah, no, I think probably 8 weeks is the most I ever took off during the season.
Well, it looked like from being a 26-time world champion, because I've been over here a few different times, and it was always one of the things that I admired about it so much was just your work ethic. And also, too, was how many horses you could get rode in such a short time. Like your structure of how everything was where I watched you one day, I think within 5.5 hours was on, I think, 15 or 16 horses, and just the structure of it, how you could get through the routine of your day. And then it looked like since you've retired, then it looks like you've been able to basically just roll right into something you're very passionate about, which is riding horses. And it doesn't look like anything really changed. It's not gone as much.
No, that's a big plus. And, I'm not necessarily, it seemed like when I was practicing before, I was always tuning something up or just working on the timing between me and my horse, depending on what event it was, and more fine tuning. And, my day looks a lot different now because they're starting at different levels and having to adjust for what stage of learning each horse is in, which it's fun and it's a lot more relaxed. Maybe not as much laser focused on my skill sets now is just trying to build a good product in a good horse.
What? So you guys kind of have your own separate horses when you guys are both healthy, correct? And so when you went down and had surgery, how did you get the horses you've been riding this year? 'Cause you've had a heck of a season already, futurity. And so were you on some of yours? Did you get some of his? How did you manage the horses this winter and this spring?
The good thing about mine and his deal is, like you and I were talking about it earlier, having another set of eyes on you. And so we always have that going for each other, but we swap horses all the time too. So
Even in the futurities?
100%. Yeah. Yeah, there's times where I'm like, hey, ride this horse for a little bit, see what you're feeling, and he'll do the same thing. Well, if he's clicking with that horse or if I'm clicking with the horse, it's really not about his horse is my horse, just about who can win the most money on that horse, you know. So that's at the front end of the decision making there is just wherever the horse is going to prosper. So when he went out, the adjustment really, you know, when you got to focus more on one thing, there's less focus on something else. And so basically where we took a lot of the strain off was the young horses. So like we sent 2-year-olds off for the first time this year, and where normally I ride the 2-year-olds. So they went out, and then the 3-year-olds are more behind this year than they have been in the past. But the way I shifted it was I rode all the futurity horses. And so, like I said, that took away time from the young ones, but it kept the futurity season horses rolling, you know. And now that he's back, he's taken over, you know, half or so of the show horses. And I've kind of started filtering the 2 and 3-year-olds back in. You know, we just kind of shifted stuff around, but it was really like, we have some 3-year-olds that are turned out in the pasture. And for me, I'm looking at them thinking, you know, honestly, it's probably better for them in the long run anyway, because we've put less pressure on them early. And so it wasn't really a burden in any kind of way. I just kind of shifted around what my daily deal looked like, you know.
Have you noticed a difference in your roping when you were mainly riding the futurity horses as opposed to riding the 3 and 4-year-olds, where you're kind of just getting them started?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm real conscious about that on the roping side of stuff, because it's hard to stay sharp roping on 3-year-olds. You know, their strides are longer and they hit the ground slower and they don't know how to gather their strides. So it's hard to keep a lot on your rope, and you'll get to doing funky stuff with your swing and your angles. And so like, it's a internal battle with me all the time, like making sure that I'm keeping my swing at a certain point. Like I'm picking timing up at a certain distance out as I'm gaining, you know. So like, if you're not working on that stuff while you're working on your horse, you're slipping, because in this game, you can have the best horse, but if you don't execute on him, it doesn't matter. And so you've got to really make sure you focus on that part of it too.
How much have you won this year altogether between all the futurities, and what all futurities have you been to so far this year?
I've been to a couple Royal Crowns, and Drigger's futurity, the Gold Buckle futurity, is a really good one. And then I think there's been like 5 American Rope Horse futurities. So I'm going to say I've been to probably 8 or 9 futurities so far this year. And I always say the Remuda, because like I said, I can't even look back and think about what horses I showed and I didn't show at certain shows. You know, this year when Trevor went out, it was kind of a shock to the general public to not see me or Trevor on some of the horses, but I've got a really good help horse, and I know the hill horses. And so before I went to Scottsdale, which was February, first show of the year, or not Scottsdale, Buckeye, I talked to Trevor and then Ty and Melanie about it, and I said, hey, I know this sounds crazy, but I think it might be smart, like this stud's so good, to just stick somebody on him that can just heel 2 feet, and the horse is going to show himself, and I'll do the heading, because I'm going to show up on my best horse, and I'm going to try harder than anybody, and because I'm invested. And so, like, Jeremy Buehler rode one of the studs, and then Paul Eves rode him once, and I think that might have been it. But so, like, I think Buehler won about $20,000 on one, and then Paul won $5,000 or $6,000. So I always say the Remuda won, but up to this point, at the halfway point in the year, we won about 300,000. And so it's and we're about to the point of the year where we get to rope for the most money. There's 2 or 3 shows here at the end of the year that you have a chance to win 100,000 plus at one place.
Because if you look at the team roping, I think right now, just in the world standings, to be able to make that much money with your rope.
Yeah, 100%. I know.
That's you're using your talent too. Don't
Yeah.
make sure I'm not discrediting that, but like to be able to make a living with rope and team rope and be able to make that much money halfway through the season, that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
What it's going to.
When you asked me about that, prior to this, and I kind of put a pencil to it, I could, just off what I knew, I could show. I know for sure that I've won over 225,000 this year, and for me, like, I always put it into perspective and have to say thank you, Lord, because I'm just a kid from Oklahoma that like just wanted to get to rope, and I seen guys like him make a living with the rope, and I'm like, that'd be crazy, to get to actually make a living with your rope, and the industry took off at the right time, the rope horse industry, and that kind of fed into what I've always focused on, because roping wasn't my main focus. It was training horses. And
just kind of your first passion coming up? Because I remember seeing you at the rodeos a little bit when we go up there the prairie circuit, but is that what you started off doing, was starting horses? Yeah.
I liked the colts. I grew up, like, we had a feed yard and stuff, and I just rode colts in the feed yard, and I just always liked that. And then I had an older horse that I got from Trevor that I circuit rodeoed on a little bit and had fun doing that. But at the end of the day, like, just the young horses was definitely my passion, and it was honestly my talent. Like, I've really worked at the roping, to get to where I'm as competitive as I am. I really focused on that a lot, and being around Trevor's, obviously, if you're around him every day and you don't get better at roping, then you need to do something different, And so it's been real good to actually get to say that I make a living with my rope on the back of a horse is pretty surreal for me.
So how did y'all's relationship start? So I know when you retired, were you sending horses to Miles? Like, because you guys are partners now to where, I mean, shoot, I see you're getting a house built right across the street. So you guys are a hell of a team too, but how did it all start?
That's just so when he gets real old, somebody's going to have to take care of him. He's getting close.
Yeah. Yeah, Tristan will be gone.
Yeah.
Well, me and Larry D had actually got probably, I want to say there was 10 or 11 head of horses at one time, and they were anywhere from 2 to 3. And so we sent them off to different people, and the ones I got back from Miles were just better. I just know he took pride in his work, and like, you can tell when you get on those horses, and it wasn't scared. It wasn't just yeehawed around and kind of got them moving their feet and could make a good video. Like, they were actually broke. They were trained. And then I just kind of got to being around him a little bit more and sending more horses up there. And I was just like, well, nobody's doing, like the full process like he was doing. I mean, he wasn't cheating anything. There was no corners being cut. And so finally, that's when I told him that I think there's more opportunity than just you riding these horses for me. I'd like to do something, with you. Cause I mean, I've been around the industry a long time, and it doesn't matter where what industry you come from. I mean, there's certain guys that have a work ethic and a character and integrity that it doesn't matter where they're going to go. They're going to be successful, and it's going to serve them in whatever area of life they choose to excel in. And me being retired from rodeo at that point, I just thought that this would be a great partnership moving forward for the rope horse industry for our little niche in it anyway.
Yeah, because the timing of it hit just right. It seemed like they've had a few futurities. I think maybe they started in 2017, and then I think by 2020 you retired, and they were kind of starting to pick up, and then kind of where you were at too. It seemed like the perfect storm. And then now, like I say, you guys are, shoot, how many futurities is there now? There's the American Rope Horse Futurity,
Gold Buckle,
there's Royal Crown.
Then there's one called the Platinum. So there's probably four.
The Texas Best.
5 associations.
Associations.
Probably 15 futurities a year that you could go to if you went to all of them. It's getting to the point where you're going to go to the better ones, and they'll probably, I don't know if they'll keep having the weaker ones or not. But
now, what about the one that's going to be going on next, or is it the end of this month?
In July.
In July in Wallsburg,
yeah,
Utah?
Chance for real money.
Did I say that right? Is that where it's at?
Ren Richard, or the Richards in general, ANC Racing, and then Reggie Probst. He has a few girls that come over here and rope quite a bit, and they really enjoy the industry and big promoters of it. And Reggie's a great guy, and they've stuck their neck out and put real money up. And the winner of the 6 and under heading and the 6 and under heeling is going to get $100,000, and then the 4 and under is going to be $50,000 to the winner of each side, and that's a chance to.
That's real money.
Yeah, 100%.
Because I was trying to think of the amount of jackpots that pay $100,000 these days. I don't know if the BFI does. I don't think it hits it, does it?
Not a man.
I know that at one point in time the George Strait did, but that's. Yeah, I don't know if any jackpot hits quite 100 anymore.
Yeah, no, and it's getting, like I said, it's getting to where you can make real money, and we've had to adjust, and we need to always keep it in our mind and not just get to training horses just to train horses, and make sure that we're riding less and riding good ones, because just if you have an extra 10 horses around and you're not making that much more money on them, selling them, you're taking time away from horses that could actually be great. And so, like, we have a few horses that halfway through the year have won 50,000 or more, and so you go show them, we've had horses win over 100,000 in a year. So if you really focus and have a good horse and go execute and can win 50 to 100,000 on a horse in a year's time, then, that's what a good horse can sell for, so you can go pay for that horse and make money on it and then still have the product to sell it in the end. That's the end goal. Trevor's always said you can kind of get paid to season horses, and if you do it right, you can.
Now, how many horses are in the Relentless Remuda that are competing?
We don't talk. Competing. I was about to say we don't talk about how many we.
No, we won't. Yeah, it takes a lot to come up to keep coming with the numbers under, and I get that.
Yeah,
but how many are you guys competing on?
I would say show horses. There's probably 15 head of show horses total, and they don't all go everywhere. There's, I think in the 4-year-old class we have about 6 horses, and about half head horses, half heel horses, and then that's what's showing. We've got more 4-year-olds that aren't ready yet, that got started late or whatever, and then we got 3 studs, and then just some geldings that we've kept for ourselves or kept to sell later, and then we've even got a few that we've sold to people, and with the agreement that we'd finish out the year on them. That way, when they take their product home, it's seasoned, and everybody asks us all the time about sending us horses, and we say, we don't ride outside horses. And it says, well, so-and-so says it owns that horse. Well, yeah, they came and bought that horse from us, maybe, say the beginning of its 5-year-old year. And we said, hey, it's a good horse, but it's not seasoned yet. We'll finish the year, season it. When you get it, it'll be ready to go. But that's the only way that we ride something that
you're confident with it, that it's seen all the everything that town can offer, more or less.
And you get paid for your training, because like one gelding that we sold him before he ever went to town, and I knew the horse had the potential to win good money, well, he's went on and won 50, 60,000. Well, we get to keep a part of that money. So on top of selling the horse, you hate to sell it right when you're about to get to reap the benefits of all the work you've put in. And so it's, if you got a good one, we are in the business to sell them, but you kind of want to get to go show them too. And so it's kind of play the best of both roles doing that.
So what is your guys' training program? So say, let's start at maybe three years old. where do you want your horses to be at 3? Obviously, you start competing on them if they're ready, you feel like at 4. How do you kind of develop it, and then where are they at 5 and 6?
Well, I'll let Miles take this because I don't get on the 2-year-olds. I feel like he is the best 2-year-old guy. That's why we started this deal. So many of the horses that I had started before were coming out of other disciplines, and they weren't started with this being the sole purpose, to make a rope horse. And so they learned a lot of stuff that they may not need, or that might even be counterproductive in the sport that we're fixing to, try them on. So you end up having to untrain a lot of stuff. And it's so nice now because he's can show a finished horse as good as anybody, but can make them from the ground up. So like he also knows, just because you send them to a good 2-year-old guy, if they don't know what a great head horse is supposed to feel like, they can't really put in those buttons at that age that will help them later, or be able to tap into that later without, it just transitions so easy.
Yeah. So many people defeat into that on the 2-year-old guys. So many people are so uneducated on what a real head horse feels like that they just don't know what it takes. And so it's hard to do a good job if you don't know what the end result needs to be. Honestly, right now, my best 3-year-old, we've owned her. She come off the racetrack, and she run when she was 2, just ran one race, and got her. We had a Rainer rider, good hand, but she was getting cold. Such no good. I was like, man, I knew she was big and pretty. I go ride her, and I'm like, holy crap, this is a head horse, And so we just buy her out because our partners.
So there was something on her you felt like there was a feel. What was that? I know feel's hard to describe, but
yeah, you can't describe it.
She just had it.
Yeah, she had it. And I mean, she was getting cold with 45, 60 days or so off the track. She was green, but I know what I can do as far as getting her functional. But the way she hit the ground, and then to be so unbroke, how light she was between the bridle reins, and then I can get real mechanical here. But when I put my leg on her, she was connected. I could move her head around and do stuff with her face. But when I laid my leg on her side, sometimes the reiners and different things, where they've cow horsed them, they've got them so bendy. And you know this, if you go to face and you lay your leg into their right side and they just fold around their leg, but their ass doesn't get to moving, it's pointless in a head horse, So when I'd lay my leg on her, she got her whole body away from my leg in both ways, And so I was just like, this is a head horse. Well, she was getting cold because she wasn't fitting the mold, But in the least crude way of possible saying this, I don't care what a reiner thinks about a head horse. You know what I mean? He don't know what a good head horse is, and so. That's what he was saying. That's what's giving me the upper hand is I've got to get on some real head horses. I know what it's supposed to feel like, and I know what we need in the end. And so it just gives me an advantage, But Ty Benson's in Weatherford, Texas, and he's rode a few 2-year-olds for us this year, and he started some for Billy Jack and them, and he calls me every other week. Hey, on this head horse. And he's asking me questions and really dissecting it because he's trying to understand what it takes to get that end product, because he's not a roper, but he rides cow horses and cutters, and he knows that that's 2 separate disciplines, and the heading is too. And I tell people that about the heeling, the heeling's a different event. There's very few horses that I think are really above average at both events, and because they're 2 separate events, And so I think horses can be great head horses. They can be great heel horses, but you're asking them to frame 2 different ways, And so it takes you got to know what the end goal is to do a good job in the beginning, or you're just shooting in the dark, Because like I said, we were about to cull what's my best 3-year-old right now, just because a reiner didn't know what a head horse is supposed to feel like,
I know what Trevor and I, we talked earlier today when we were roping, and we were talking about sometimes not knowing what a good horse is until you've been on one. And I was telling him about that quote I'd heard. And then I said, I remembered the first day and the first moments. There's two of them. And one of them was on the yellow horse that used to own Calhoun that Richard Eger and Pook had. And then the other one was Par, when Jason Stewart had. And I'm not so sure if maybe Pook's brother, Jason, didn't start him, but I couldn't remember.
I know he had him at one time.
Yeah. And that was, I remember hearing that statement that you don't know what a good one is till you get on it. And when I got on those two, I was like, yeah, because when I rode them, like I stuck on them. Like when I would get done with the run, like I was in the money. And I'm like, I hadn't been there in a long time riding my own. And then that's when I was like, man, I've got to get this horsemanship stuff figured out, or a better jockey or whatever it was. But what do you feel like between the two of you guys? What do you feel like you guys have learned off each other? Because it seems like your roping now almost looks like Trevor's, because this winter when I was watching you guys rope, other than the shape of your hat, that was the only thing.
Yeah, I got a better crease.
You get a little more howdy ma'am to it. But, but like this swing, you can tell you guys hung out all the time. And you're being able to ride those younger horses and show them. What do you guys feel like you've almost learned off each other? This made you guys.
We've been a little
dynasty now.
Fire and ice when we started, because, you and I were talking about it today. Like I would just go so slow and just build them up and build them up and build them up. And then he would put some heat on them. And I'm like, he's unraveling them, and then you'd wait a minute and in a month, you're like, dang, how'd that horse get good so fast? But it was like, he is so good at putting pressure on them and keeping them confident and keeping them quiet and teaching them to like operate under pressure, and I'm geared to build them up from the ground. And, I think when I got here, I could build them up from the ground to a certain point, but then I had to have him get on them to take them on to the next level. So I remember one of the very first interviews me and him did, it was Western Horseman, and they like described the relationship. And I was like, if we're on a scale of 0 to 10, I could get him 0 to 5, but Trev goes 5 to 10. And so being down here, I've really tried to elevate and get to 5 to 10. That's been my goal. And obviously this relationship has helped me to get closer to that.
And I think he's done that. I mean, it's easy to see, I was out 6 months with the shoulder surgery, and it was just business as usual down here. You wouldn't have known I wasn't here, or at the shows. They were winning. It was awesome. I was up there eating bonbons.
Watching basketball, really.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of basketball, man, how about your little basketball star?
Yeah,
that's been fun to watch.
It's fun for us because we get to go to all these tournaments and they're in the AC.
Yeah, we love it. That's our Sundays.
No lie. Yeah,
I love going and watching. I miss watching Tristan play, but I like getting to go rope with him more.
It's been fun watching how they've grown up and where Tristan's getting he's been showing a little bit and been having some success. And then I seen last weekend was the Texas High School State Finals, and he made it to Nationals.
Yeah, that was a big deal. I mean, that's what I told him. I was like, it is a big deal. Don't take it for granted, because I mean, I thought I roped pretty good back then. I went to Nationals. I made it one time in one event. Well, I say two events. One of them, I made it in the cutting one time. But I made it in calf roping and team roping. I never made it in the calf roping. I made it in the team roping one time my high school career.
Were you heading or heeling then?
I was heading. Heading for Roehampton.
And then Style, she's going
to be a freshman next year.
And where all is she at in basketball?
Oh gosh. Seems like we play a lot. I mean, she seemed like we played when Tristan played baseball. She was on a travel baseball team, so we tease her all the time because she looks back at pictures and she's like, I can't believe y'all let me be that much of a tomboy. And it was fun for a dad, because to sit back there and watch her pitch, in travel baseball games or be a catcher or where she could fill in anywhere. It was cool. She's always had grit to her, just extra, and just proud of her. She's not afraid to sweat, that's for sure.
Now, what tournament is she going? Because you're going to have to balance going to the high school state finals, watching Treston, and then you said North Carolina.
Nationals, his national rodeo finals is in Rock Springs, Wyoming, and her Adidas nationals is in Rock Hill, South Carolina at the same time. And so
now, what is the Adidas? What are those tournaments? Because you said there's a lot to that.
Yeah, there is. There's Nike's got a shoe circuit, Adidas, Under Armour, and she's on an Adidas team. And it's
now, how did she get on that team?
They in the organization she played in, that was her goal, is to be able to play on the Adidas team, because it's just next level of travel basketball. If you're on a Nike team or an Adidas team, it's kind of a little badge of honor for basketball. I don't really know how to compare it to rodeo, but I mean, like, it's a next level of that, to where anymore, I don't know how many people get college offers just out of high school or at the state tournament and stuff. I mean, like, these colleges know these kids by the time, I mean, like, say, Styles been blessed enough to have, 3 D1 offers before she got into her freshman year of high school. I mean, that's what she said. She goes, who would have ever thought that was even possible? She's just been super blessed, and just hope she stays.
And then I think you told me one time she was ranked at a certain, I don't know if it was state level.
There's rankings.
What all is that?
It's
just to understand.
I hate to put too much weight in that, because there's just different lists, different committees make different lists, and it's like I say, it's cool that they notice, but it's not the end all.
But it's cool. It's cool to know that you're on the radar.
No,
sure.
100%.
You're going somewhere after school.
So thankful for, all the attention that she has got, through basketball, because she does work at it.
Yeah, I've seen her. I've watched it on Facebook, just the stuff that you and your wife share, and she's a baller. Golly, she's rank.
She works at it too. It's cool for me to see it, because she goes to, like, they leave at 5 a.m. and go to a basketball practice, and then she comes home, and throughout the day you'll see her up there playing by herself, shooting, and then at 5 o'clock in the evening they leave and go over by Denton to either a team practice, or she goes to a trainer. And it's just like, you would think like 2-a-days would wear a kid out, but she still gets an hour or two in between, like during the day, up there just playing by herself. And it's just, you don't see kids like that hungry, and I can resonate with it, because I was like that when I got hooked up on the horse deal. I just like wanted more and more and more, and you couldn't pull me off, and I know what that work ethic, how it changed stuff for me. And so to see a kid have that same drive, that they're setting themselves way apart from the other kids.
Now, what about Swayze? What's her passion?
Lemonade.
Yeah. She's been making money with the lemonade stand this summer.
You got some entrepreneurial skills are kind of passing along.
I guess so. It's funny. She'll be set up, and I just tell her, you can't stand right in the middle of the road. Some people don't want to stop, and I don't want you to get hit.
She's got talent, because I've got 2 lemonades and I've spent $40. So she got $20 a piece on lemonade.
Yeah.
Now, what does she do to draw attention? She got one of them things that blows in the wind.
Signs, no. And literally, I
what's her
had to tell
marketing
her,
strategy?
Get off the street.
She just stopped.
People have trouble passing a 9 or 8-year-old selling lemonade in the
You learn how to work that early.
She texted me and said, if you don't stop and get lemonade, you got to vote for Joe Biden. So I was like, well, shit, where's the lemonade at?
Yeah, exactly.
And then the first time I handed her a 20, she looked at me and goes, do you need change? Nah. What do you say? No, ma'am. Thank you.
She learned that in her sales book.
Yeah. She has to just be driving them. She's almost rodeo in another way, and just getting them all to all the different stuff they have going on, huh?
It really is, and it's hard, because with 3 kids, and like we're so blessed that they both get to compete at their nationals this year. And like, so you want to be there for both of them, but there's some things that you just have to count up. Like, this is just,
because what are the chances that both of them are the same time?
This is a great problem, as much as you want to stress over it and stuff, and so we'll do the best we can and do what makes the most sense. And there's going to be a lot of videos, and you can probably watch them on TV. I know it's not the same, but I mean, there's tough choices in life. I mean, parenting, everything, and it's you don't want to let any of your kids down. But I think they understand that she would do anything for any of us that she has. If she has the time, she's going to do it, and usually if she doesn't have the time.
Well, one thing about it, they should be fairly understandable and a little bit immune to a lot of things that most kids aren't, with the amount of travel you've done throughout your career and everything like that. So I imagine to be successful and to be having to go to so many places, you do have to be a little bit gracious, it seems like, and learn how to kind of swivel and go with the flow on a lot of different things. So I bet it'll probably end up being handled all right.
Yeah, oh yeah. No, it'll work out. It always does, but you just have to be, like say, attitude of gratitude always, because it's some problems are good problems.
Yeah.
So we'll welcome them. We'll figure it out, and we'll keep going.
Will Treston, will he be back in time? Will he be able to go to that futurity at Ren's? Is there a bracket for him?
He gets done this is how busy he is. He leaves for Shawnee this weekend, and he gets done at Shawnee, does a Shawnee short go, has 1 day to get to Rock Springs to run his first one. And then a short round at Rock Springs, I want to say, has just a day or so to get back to the
WCR,
WYCRA or something, the youth WCRA deal in Guthrie. And so he's not going to.
So he'll go to Shawnee, up to Rock Springs, and back down to Oklahoma.
Yeah, back to Guthrie. He's already kind of having to decide in rodeo like where he needs to be and stuff, because
learning logistics early.
Yeah, well, me and him talk about stuff all the time, and we had the conversation of like, we just got to see what kind of added money's in the non-pro at this futurity and just see where we can win the most money. And then he sees, all right, I'm going to leave Rock Springs and get back to Guthrie because that's where I have the most opportunity. And it's just, in a way, he's like a 16-year-old kid getting to have the opportunity to rope for that kind of money is awesome, but get to start making decisions on where the best place to be is and how to get there is, it's got to be teaching them something, you know, about the business or just life in general, And
it's fun to watch because, I mean, like it used to be a big deal to get to go to Northside with Miles, and it still is, but they went from going in the perf so they get home to where like now the kind of news are worn off of that, and we want to have the best opportunity. So like, I was going to say like, yeah, we'll just go in the slack, because that's where the money's made, or, and so he's making better decisions and not just to see the sites or going to do that stuff.
I told him that he got to learn a good lesson because we got kind of, in PRCA terms, we got popped at Bowie, and it just boiled down to him not getting his confirmation number because he changed it online. Well, it didn't take, it said it took, but we get the call back and we got popped. And so second out in the Slack, and I was like, well, call in, talk to him. They're like, you got your confirmation number. And he kind of got a blank look on his face, and it's like, there we go. Because they'd obviously, it's online, so it's not like they're recording calls. And so we learned a lesson there, but I brought it up to him because we would go to Northside and he liked roping in the perf and stuff. And I said, hey, generally there's 20, 30 teams. First 10 go in the perf. Everybody in the Slack knows. And so I said, if we want to go over there and get the bright lights and, get seasoned, I'm game. I love getting to go with him, and I want to be a part of that process for him. But I said, majority of the time, it's won in the Slack, because you go in the Slack, over half the teams have gone. You know what you got to be, and so I said,
you know what you got, Rod. You
tell me if we want to go over there and get rid of jitters, or if we want to go make money. And a little time goes by, and he's like, let's go over there for the money. I said, perfect. So we go over there last week and we entered the slack both times and we did good both nights. And it's funny seeing stuff change because not long ago we would go to Mesquite to the pro rodeo and just run one after the pro team, just like an exhibition run, just to get him in front of people. And you know what it's like. Mm-hmm. It's Rich Skelton told me that last weekend. He was like, man, it's good y'all go to Northside. You got to rope for money. He said, roping at home's different. You got to rope for money. And so like we're doing that, but now we're not just going to get the bright lights. Like he's starting to go to make money. And
yeah, because that was a good run. You guys were 4-something over there at Northside, weren't you?
Yeah, I think we were 5-3 or something the first night and 4-6 the next night. And it was good. That second night, we knew what we drew and drew real good and made a real good sharp run. And it was good for Trevor and I because we're constantly preaching at him about you don't got to throw your whole rope. Hit the barrier, ride your horse, make sure everything's sharp. There's no wasted motion, And we just made a real sharp, controlled run and did real good. And so it was real good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fun. How's he been doing in the fraternities?
Real good.
He's done really good. He can just heal now in the non-pro division, but that's just been such a good avenue for him to like develop in his horsemanship, because like it's really hard to tell kids to develop in your horsemanship and then you go to the jackpot and it doesn't matter, but here's somewhere where you can go and work on something, and when you go to rope, like people are judging you on your horsemanship and what your horse looks like through here. And so I think it's a great way for the kids to be, get their feet wet in the rope horse fraternity, but also just to transition to the jackpots, because I feel like it'll always stick with them, especially if they learn it at an early age, and just being around a lot of great horsemen while you're there and seeing it.
Yeah, there's a lot to that. That's the one thing when I got to go to Ardmore the other day, just being able to sit and watch videos with you two and Joseph, and just watching runs and where you're trying to manipulate their feet and where you're trying to get the right angles here to set it up and where it looks better and where the run is better and where the time comes in. And yeah, it's definitely an iron sharpen iron. It's been fun to watch. Just and more guys are starting to see a few young kids coming through it a little bit too. And it's got to be pretty fun too to be able to be at that level with your horsemanship and be able to go to the shows and still be able to do it with your kids. That's one of the things I remember, as a young kid, you always get to go rope with your dad at the jackpots, but to be able to do that also with your kids showing, it's got to be pretty dang fun.
It hits a little different when you're helping him though. Like I used to always kick the box and be like, oh man, come on Trev, don't mess up. And then when Trev went out, I was like, who's going to help Treston now? Surely not.
It was funny then.
Surely not me. And it started the year off because I just was on pins and needles. I just don't want to mess up for him. Mainly because I don't want to mess up for Treston, and then two, I don't want Shadow mad at me. So I went on a streak there, and I had turned him like 34 steers and never broke a barrier, never missed one or nothing. And I'm like, I got it down, and then I missed one for him, and it was like all of a sudden the ones leading up to that point didn't matter anymore because I missed one, and I felt terrible, which he don't care, he's a 16-year-old kid, he's just glad to be there. But it does make you nervous helping. I helped Daisy, so I should be used to it. But
yeah,
she's too sweet. I don't know how anybody could get nervous about that, because there's no way she could say anything mean.
No, she don't care.
Yeah.
So where do you think the fraternities are going? It's really cool to see where some young kids have an avenue to come through the non-pro and work through the non-pro,
limited, intermediate, open,
intermediate, and then the open.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So is that where a lot of the young kids can kind of work their way up?
I don't think it's caught on as much as it should yet. I hear a lot of kids, and that's what's been great, through the Relentless Remuda, and them following us on Instagram and stuff, is they see it and they'll know the horses and stuff. But I do think they're missing an opportunity of putting all those pieces together and getting to do it themselves when they're going. All those things that we just listed, those classes are by your roping classification. So if you're a 5+ or down, you can go here. If you're a 7 and down, you can go here. And so I feel like there's not as many kids as I think should be taking advantage of the situation to be able to work on your horsemanship. And also, that's what I have to complete the course, obviously. And, roping is a big part of that. But to do that while you're still thinking and being conscious of what your horse is doing and what you're doing to make your horse better, I think it all just helps those young guys and girls just develop in that process at the same time, instead of just talking about it during the week and then totally abandoning it on the weekend.
Yeah.
So there's so many fraternities also. We talked about the American Rope Horse Fraternity, the Royal Crown, the Texas Best, and you said the Platinum.
There's a Platinum, and then Driggers and
they kind of merged. So the Platinum and the
Platinum and Gold Buckle merged.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah, there's one Platinum that's the standalone in Rapid City. But
so what makes them different? Are they the same? Are they different? Is there something that's because I would think
there's different variations of like what percentage the time matters, and this is probably going to get in the weeds for a lot of people, but some, like the American Rope Horse, the time is the third judge. So it's truly, a third of your score. In other fraternities, it can be just like a maneuver. So like your box, your score and in your box work is one maneuver. Run and rate would be one maneuver. Set and handle and face. And then time would just be one of those maneuvers. So there's the good thing about there being so many different scenarios is that it could fit, like some could fit people better than others. But the bad thing is it's kind of hard to get caught up and educated on all of that. But I mean, there is something for everybody out there right now. Now, what will be the gold standard is still yet to be seen, of what works the best. And because nobody likes to be, feel like they were pencil whipped and, done anything as far as like they want a good, clear explanation of why this horse won versus this horse. And we all do, we want that to be, a lot of integrity in that. And so in order to do that, I think eventually we're going to have one overall system that wins out and everybody knows it. And it's easier to be accountable to why this works and why this doesn't. And this is what we're looking for. And if your horse did this, or this, or this is why you got a -1 on that maneuver. And this is why this guy got a +2 on that maneuver because his horse did this, and it's just needs to become a little bit more black and white. And in the process, until it gets that way, the judges, I think we need to hear a lot more from the judges of what they're looking for, because if you're judging one week and I'm judging the next week, we have overall about the same idea of what we want a horse to do, but it's just your opinion versus my opinion, and something may be more important to you and something else may trump that to me. And I may weigh my score more heavily on the box, and you may weigh your score more heavily on the face for some reason. There's a lot that goes into it for sure.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that would have to be talked about to like the people that are uneducated on it, as far as the variations of different ones, is like the Gold Buckle and the Royal Crown are stallion incentive driven futurities. So
what's the advantage for that then? Is that for the breeders?
Built in added money. And so like there's I don't know how many are in the Royal Crown. Well, say Driggers deal. I think they got 50 stallions in it. So to be able to show at that futurity, you have to have an offspring by one of those stallions. But those stallion owners have to pay, I don't know if it's $6,500 or $7,500 a year to be a part of that. So already before there's even any added money, you've got that $7,500 coming from those 50 stallion owners that's already built into that futurity. So there's there's already, we call it incentive money to go get. And on that incentive money, I think like I won the stallion incentive deal at the Gold Buckle in Ardmore, and I want to say I won 20 or 25,000. Well, half of that money goes back to Larry Rice, who owns the stallion that my horse was by. So me and Larry split that 20 or 25,000, however much it was. So he gets half of that. Well, it cost him 7,500 probably to put his horse in. Well, he got 10 or 12,000 back off of that, and then didn't cost me anything to have his stallion in it. But I in return got 10 or 12,000 too. So,
but it also encourages you to go buy those types of stallions. Because just to be clear, you can show anything at the Gold Buckle Futurities, but you go for if you're eligible for the extra stallion bonus, you have to be on one of those horses.
Yep.
And we forgot to mention the Regatta Buckle earlier. It's different because it's not judged at all. And so
it's just timed, right?
It's just timed. It's a jackpot and just time only on younger type horses. So I'm just adding that in to show there's a lot more to the industry.
That's a big one in the fact of where it lets a lot of people in.
Yes,
right?
yeah. No, I
see a lot of people like, why would I buy anything else other than a Regatta horse just because of all the money that.
Yeah. Well, and if you look at programs, and I think when you're in the breeding business, you need to be following a program that is bought into these, that keeps up with all this, that is educated. You have to have a great stud, but you also have to know that those offspring are going to be eligible for X, Y, and Z, because if they're not, you can spend all this time training them, and not only do they not have enough money, don't get enough opportunity to go at those big money things where you can season them at those futurities, but they're also not going to be worth as much as weanlings because nobody's going to have that opportunity to go do that on them.
Yeah. And now that you say that, I think the Royal Crown is the only one that has no exceptions.
Mm-hmm.
The Gold Buckle, you can show anything, but to be eligible, you have to be on one. And then the Regatta Buckle, I mean, there's proxies and different ways to get into that. But that's why I like the Gold Buckle. You can go kind of stack money up at it. You can go stack money up at the Royal Crown, but it's hard to at some of the futurities. The biggest paying futurity now will be the one in Utah, but there's 400,000 added. So you can't add that kind of money at all these futurities throughout the year and to make them pay that good. And so having those stallion incentives built in makes those futurities really appealing to guys like us that are trying to go, put food on the table by winning.
Not to mention, you got a lot of money. We've got 3 studs standing here in the barn. And if they're in those incentives, man, it adds up.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of burden on a stallion owner. So, hopefully the industry will support that. But it's just like the American Rope Horse is primarily a sponsor-driven model, other than entry fees, where these incentives bring in so much more, and then it's kind of a hybrid between the incentive money / sponsor money as far as a business model. And I do think that there is, like he said, a lot more built-in money, and it's more sustainable as long as the stallion owners and breeders get paid back along the way to where it works for everybody.
Yeah.
I've seen the studs that you guys have been riding. That Darkk Side looks amazing. That sucker. And the thing about it too is where I can tell, like when I first started going into a few of the futurities, it looked like a lot of what you talked about is a lot of the head horses there were maybe reining rejects, cutter rejects. And when you look at Darkk Side, like he looks like a head horse.
Yeah.
Bone, the way he's built, the stride. I mean, he looks awesome. And how old is he now?
He's 5 years old.
He looked so good at Ardmore, and today looked awesome. And yeah, that's going to be a heck of a producing stud.
Thank you. Yeah, we're proud of him.
And then what other studs? You said you have a couple more. What other studs you guys have?
Pride and Joy. He's a 5-year-old as well. Stevie Ray Vaughan. Chris Dawson showed him in the cow horse, and we got him after he was done in the cow horse, which was the beginning of his 4-year-old year. And we've won about 100, and I want to say about 150,000 on him. His lifetime earnings is like 190,000, and he got some of that in the cow horse. It did good at the snaffle bit futurity, and he's an exceptional horse. We hill on him. We were going to switch ends on him, but I had a pretty good time crunch when I got him. I don't think I run my first steer on him till April of his 4-year-old year, and showed him in June, and he was just a freak. Well, he did so good in the heeling that I was a little afraid to start a new event on him, just for the sake of, like, we knew that he could kind of stand on business in one event and hold his own and win good there. And so it's a little bit of a risk to then all of a sudden start heading on one too. But we've talked about it a jillion times because it would be so easy to rope calves or head on him. But he's just an exceptional horse, freak athlete, has his appearance when you watch him is amazing, but you can't give him the full respect he deserves until you sit on his back and feel him. Yeah, he has such a great feel, and I've let a few guys get on him, and the same question I've got from Bueller and Paul and all them are like, what will y'all do with him after the futurity? He's like, will he get to go to any rodeos and stuff? Because he's
that look to him?
Yep, he has that feel to where, like, somebody could make a living on his back heeling steers. He's just that good of a horse. And then we've got
that's cool to have, to where you have something that can produce that.
Yeah,
it's one thing to be able to have a stud, but then to have a stud where the top guys are like, yeah, that's what a heel horse is supposed to look like, and then to know that there's something that there's going to be more of them coming under from that horse. So that's
100%. Huge. Yeah, he'll produce in the cow horse. He'll produce in the cutting. He'll produce in the roping. The way he was bred to be, a cutter or a cow horse, and he excelled in a short amount of time in those disciplines. And then we've did good with him in the roping too. So that horse really he has a chance to leave his mark in multiple industries as a competitor and a producer. And
it seems like the heel horses kind of fit that size, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Between the cutters and the reiners.
Yeah.
They can take that.
Yeah, you take a horse like Darkk Side that, weighs 1,300 and something pounds, not a lot of cutters are going to come breed to him, but not a lot of people seeking to raise a 15 2 or 3 hand head horse are going to breed to those other horses. And so I think that's a cool dynamic that we have with our studs.
What is Darkk Side bred like?
He's by once in a blue boon, and then out of the black mare that Billy Jack Sabins rode at the NFR it's a couple times. She won Heel Horse of the Year once, and
Heel Horse of the BFI. I mean,
just a good mare. Produced. There's only
Dean Tufton raised her.
Yeah,
I feel like he bred her.
Yeah, he did. There's 3 or 4 of those that are out of her that have been really good. The black stud that Billy Jack ropes on, the Notorious B.I.G., he's won 100,000 or so as well, and he's out of that mare. And then there's another mare, I think her name's like DT Hickory Blue Steel or something. She's won 100 and something thousand. Those are the first 3 that have hit the show pen, and they've all exceeded, I think, 100,000 now in just a short futurity career. And, winning 100,000 at this point in what the futurities pay is really, it's a pretty good milestone, because there's not many horses that have won that much. The futurities just, now it's getting to the point where, we can go to Utah and win that kind of money. But to this point, you win 100,000 by winning at 4,000 or 5,000 at a time for the most part, unless you hit big at one of the 1 or 2 futurities a year that actually pay, more than 20 or more, so that mare's pretty well proven herself as a producer. And so that's what Darkk Side is. And then we have another stud that is, his name's Time to Glow. He's a 5-year-old by Hickory Holly Time. And then out of in our industry, one of the greatest mares that has done it, Bobby Lewis had her as Look at Her Glow, and just a great mare. Produced
now, what do you do
on her? They roped on her and cow horsed her, and then she's been a great producer, and that's what this Time to Glow stud is out
now,
of.
What is that? Another heel horse?
No, he's he's done everything. Bobby Lewis had him, and Joseph showed him some when he was 4, and
Cade Rice showed him some.
Cade Rice showed him at the Gold Buckle the end of last year.
So he's sizing enough.
McCartney showed him in the
He's
calf
sizing
rope,
enough for both then.
They had heel rope calves on him. Won the super
everything.
horse on him at both Gold Buckle futurities. He's already won enough even before we had acquired him to stand on his own 2 feet for sure, 4 feet for him.
Yeah, he's just a good horse, and we can see where the industry's going, the breeding side of it, and we have a good machine built with us. We're partners with Solo Select on these studs, and they're just industry leading in the marketing side of it and just the business side of it, and client service. I mean, they're built in. They do the breeding.
Who is that? What's that girl name that runs Solo Select?
Melanie
Smith. I listened to a podcast with her, I think with Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
she's a gangster.
She is. Man.
She is a go-getter.
She's a hustler.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. No, and then Ty Smith, he did stuff with my dad when he was in college, and so when I was in junior high or younger, he toted me around with him, and him and my dad would buy some horses and trade them and stuff. So he's the other half of Solo Select, and so I've been tight with him forever. I'm kind of he's like a big brother to me, and they've really done a great job with their business. And so us being able to, train and ride and put the money on these studs and promote them as competitors, and then they can do all the correct steps to make sure they're producers. And like I said, we more or less have a machine that's run really well with all the partners,
It seems like the heeling side, like I said, we talked earlier, can kind of have that fit between cutting and working cow horse. And so there's kind of almost some breeding going along those lines for a size of a heel horse. But on the head side,
it's a different animal.
We're kind of on the verge, it feels like, of starting to find out what those bloodlines, because you go I remember in the barrel racing at one point in time, like your Dash to Fames and Frenchman's Guy, like that was just that secret sauce right there to where they produce some great barrel horses. And so where do you feel like I don't think anyone's really tried to tweak the head horse breeding. What do you feel like, and where do you think it's going
right now? It's been going on for a few years now, but I mean,
what are you liking? What do you feel like you guys have, and what are the bloodlines, and what do you like about it?
I love the race horses, but I'm a builder, like if you want to give something the 30-day wham and jam and go just try to show around what they really are, I mean, the race horses probably aren't your thing, but it takes time and repetition and patience, and you got to really know what the end goal is, and you have to have been through the process enough to not panic when things aren't going good. And I mean, I'm not going to say the race horses are the best fit for taking something and roping on them for 90 days and hoping you can go
for
show
head horse,
them.
they better be able to run.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing about the one thing I like about the futurities is you're not using your rope, you're using your horse.
Yeah, 100%.
And so you better have something that can gain.
Yeah.
Or it made no sense to have them where they show really good, score good, can get in their butt and face and do all that stuff they can't catch up.
Yeah. But we're doing a lot of crossing cow and run, and just more taking it further past that, what horses, like we're breeding some mares to Kilo to get head horses, because Kilo his foot speed's amazing and his stride's great. But like we have a few race mares that are honestly probably too big for a lot of people. But I mean, they're 16-hand race mares that weigh 1,400, and we're breeding them to Kilo, to make head horses. And so we have enough play on the stud and the mare side of deal that we can put matches how we want them, how we see that they would best fit, and then knowing their personalities and their feel and stuff. But like for me and my partners, we've got just a cheat code with Trevor, like you can't find anybody better sometimes worse, because you'll think you have something good, and if you want to really know, you can put him on it, and you may have been working at it for a year, and he'll be like, yeah, this sucks. Try again, But like I said, we got a cheat code for building great horses, because no one knows a great head horse better than him, you know.
And you guys have a heck of an assembly line going through here, producing some good animals. And like I said, it's been fun to watch. So if a guy's interested in some breeding and studs, how do we find you? How do we find Darkk Side or any of the studs you named? How do you get a hold of that information?
I think the easiest is all inquiries just come through Relentless Remuda, whether it be looking for.
That's your website.
On Instagram, Relentless Remuda, or Facebook. I think that's the best. Just message on there, and because sometimes it could be somebody looking, you know, with a breeding question, and we can send you that direction, or looking for a certain type of horse and for this level of roper, or just wanted to get your. We've had people that don't really want to rope, but they want to be part of the futurity and be part of a horse's process, and they may own a percentage of a horse, you know, and be able to go watch one of the studs work, and that's fun because I mean.
That's a big deal. It's almost like owning a team.
Yeah.
Basically, you do have a horse in the race, but I've seen a lot of people where that's fun in the fact of, you get to go there and watch it, and that's yours. And
yeah, that's what Darkk Side is. Mm-hmm. I mean, Darkk Side's owned by a syndicate. So we had Darkk Side, and I showed him the first 3 or 4 months when he was pretty green. And I mean, in a matter of 3 or 4 shows, he won like 35, 40,000, just really showed that he was going to be what we hoped he was going to be. And so we syndicated him, which a syndicate in the rope horse deal was way before its time. So a lot of people didn't understand it. But
so what is it?
I mean, basically divvying a horse up to where he's owned, a percentage of him is owned by multiple different people. So we got, you know,
fractional ownership.
Yeah, fractional ownership. And they bought into this horse. So now he's owned by, you know, say 50 different people own a percentage of him. And with that percentage comes 2 breedings a year, like 2 free breedings a year for the lifetime of that horse.
That they can either breed their mares or they can sell them. Because we had some people just invest that didn't even have the horses. Mares. You know, they sell their breedings, and you know, it's a 2.5, 3 year payout, you know, for their investment, and they still own the shares or the fractional ownership of it, and they can continue to do that and pocket that money, and hopefully their shares worth more money, or it's just a risk you take. But I mean, that's the fun of it for so many people.
Yeah, and it just turned out like there was some negative backlash when it started, just due to people being uneducated, you know, like, which was fine. I mean, when we announced it, I think it sold out. Like the horses, the whole syndicate sold out in like 24 hours or something. It was
what
incredible.
Did people not understand about it?
Just how it worked. I mean, they just did the math on what the horse was bringing, and then all of a sudden they thought that, you know, we were just out to cut a fat hog. Well, when the dust settled, everybody that didn't get in shot themselves in the foot, because, I mean, we had people that bought into the syndicate before it sold out and bought a $35,000 share. And then when people didn't get in, they wanted in. We had people own their share for 2 weeks and sell it for $50,000. And so, I mean, they made real money just for not sitting on their hands. And then, you know, he mentioned the 2 or 3 year payout. Well, you take a $35,000 share and sell the breedings for $6,000 a piece. You know, you can get all your money back in 3 years and never own a mare, never do nothing. Well, that stud's 5. So by the time he's 8, you've recouped all your money, and you can just sell it for the next 12, 15 years of his life. You can just sell your 2 breedings every year and just make money. And you can tell any decent investor that, and it'll sound like a good idea. Well, we had guys get to trading on shares. We had one guy sell each breeding for $12,000 a piece. So he got $24,000 of his $35,000 back the very first year. And he's calling around trying to buy other people's breedings just because he just hustled his breedings around. But they're his breeding. They can do whatever the heck he wants.
Nobody else can breed to him except for the syndicate. You have to buy them from the syndicate. So there's no market value really for those shares. And like there's so many things that go into it. Like, you can't call it an investment. Like, this was something that was researched, and it took 6 months to put the paperwork together. I mean, like, there's so many things that you have to do to cover, us, our not investors, but our partners. And there's just a lot, but it was fun. And that come along with it, we train and show him. Melanie and Solo Select and Ty, they promote him. They do the marketing. I mean, like, if you just ever did the math of what it would cost to hire them to do their job to promote your stud, to hire us to do our job to promote your stud, I'm just so glad it worked, and it's been so good for the, partners that came on board.
You just, until you've you went out and you've bought you a 2-year-old stud, and you've sent him to a 2-year-old guy, and you've sent him to a 3-year-old guy, and then you send him to somebody to go show. And then the likelihood of you winning, like what that horse has already won in a year and a half, is pretty slim. But say you do get it done. All right, now start selling your breedings.
Because how hard is it to start with a stud and to try to get a name on him?
Yeah, well, now do the marketing and then do all the groundwork that it takes to have a successful stud. I guarantee you that even if 99% of people, even if they got that first part of it done and proved they had a winner, they wouldn't be willing to do the rest. And so the chances of somebody actually having a successful stud business is pretty thin. And so all we did was say, hey, we'll take care of it. Y'all just jump in and let's go. And the whole thought process behind it is, I was on the phone with Ty Smith, and he said, we've got to do something to get more people involved and show them that this is a good deal. And so he called back. It's like, I got it. He's like, we'll do a syndicate. We get these people. And he said, get new meat, get new people that aren't involved. And he said, I don't mean call the people that are already involved and grab their money. He was like, let's get new people in and say, hey, come along and let's take you on a journey.
And from the outside in, it looked like it was only a rich person could own a stud. And then for, $35,000 at that time, you could have us train and ride him and show him, them promote him, and then you get your breedings through the lifetime of that agreement.
Well, we win the AQHA World Championship on him and send out a deal. Everybody that's an owner of that horse can get a globe, like a AQHA World Championship globe that says their name on it with their horse's name. And it don't matter if they own 1% of him or 80% of him or 100%. We got syndicate owners with a globe in their house that says they own a world champion.
They did.
Horse. And they did. And you're like, for a lot of guys, like, that's pretty dang cool.
You put that in your office.
Yeah, well, I was one of them. I needed a globe. I didn't have one of those.
Yeah. Well, too, like, you got Trevor was riding him up there. They can tell all their buddies in the coffee shop Trevor Brazile was on their horse.
Do they do that at all at the race horses?
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's big in the racehorse.
So that's where you guys are thinking outside the box on the rope horse industry and starting to update it on things that other people have already been doing.
Yep. It's the racehorse deal was where a lot of that stuff originated. And it was, they do it for real money in the racehorse deal, but the breedings aren't as, I don't know what the word would be. There's just not as many breedings going around there. So like they may do like $500,000 shares or $1 million shares. It's a lot on a lot bigger scale, but our game plan wasn't to get rich by syndicating a horse by any means. Our deal was like, the industry has opportunity in front of it, but we have to have players. And so, honestly, the way it penciled out, we would have made a lot more money on that horse by just owning him ourselves and breeding him for the next 5, 6, 7 years, and then selling him when he proved himself as a producer. That would have been the route to take if we were in it just to get money. But we've got people, as soon as that happened, we had people that didn't own mares that then they were calling like, hey, I got these breedings. I might as well have a mare, and then so I sold a 4-year-old mare that I think she's won 3 futurities this year, and to a guy that just got a share and wanted in on the game, and now he's got shares to this stud that's 100-something thousand that's world champion, and now he owns a mare that's won 40, 50,000 in half a year and won some futurities. And it's like he has real value. If he uses one of his breedings on that mare and sells the embryo, that's a $50,000 to $75,000 embryo.
It is.
So now he's really making
So what's
money.
it worth on the fact that his embryo is worth a certain amount? Weanlings, 2-year-olds, like where is it to where what's kind of the most common?
There's not really a scale on that because you know how it is. Like sometimes the dream brings more than what you can see in front of you. I mean, if I told you you could spend a little extra and get the color and the sex you wanted, you'd probably just spend the extra to get it. But when it's standing there in front of you, it may not be what you want. So there's not really a scale to value that, I don't think. But I know the way we're doing it now, you take the right stud and the right mares and stuff and say that you have the opportunity to have a winner that can go win as much money as we're growing to be able to get, then it makes sense to spend the money on the good ones.
As far as the syndicate goes, I was just glad we were able to do it. And the people, were actually able to participate and bought in because it was something for everybody. Like if you had this, you had the opportunity to have a piece of, what we hoped would be one of the most successful studs in our industry, for a while to come.
Mm-hmm.
And like in Kilo's situation, I mean, we had talked about doing the same thing, but instead of having to go through that process, someone said, well, I'll buy the shares of, this horse, or, what I'm saying? So like, it's not something that we can offer very often because someone will buy them all up. But I was so happy that we were able to do it because it gave, now whether they took advantage of it or not, I can't say, but they all had the opportunity to get in on one of the coolest stallions and just overall horses that I've had a chance to ride. It's been fun.
Yeah, to have something that's tangible where you can see it and feel it and touch it and to be able to have that horse in the race, that's cool. Like I said, I enjoy what you guys are doing on the fact of getting thinking outside the box to do some different stuff. And like I said, it's been great watching you guys just to see how good you guys have gotten these horses on both ends. And so one of the things that I always preach at my clinics is the fact of like, watch Relentless, get on social media, get on Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff, and get on Relentless Remuda and just watch those futurity runs. Because the runs you guys make would win the 13 rope and all the way down to the 7. When their hand drops, when they bring that first swing up, you guys are developing such a good blueprint for so many ropers to learn how to use your horse and how you guys use your hands and how you guys face them. And they're just such good visuals. And I mean, I watch it all the time myself. And it's been like, I remember that one time I called you that one time. I had my 3 futurities horses out after I retired and stuff like that. And I had my cup of coffee, my futurity horse saddled, and I was drinking my coffee and watching Relentless Nation that morning. And I think you were pulling a sled around, heading dummy and facing him off the wall and stuff. And so I get on the horse that I'd kind of turned some steers on that day. And he'd been branded on. He's a little further along. And man, it really did. I felt like I was on that gray horse that you had that one time. It was
Quattro.
I was getting it done, Miles. I was really getting it done. Second horse I had was a Rainer. He was a little duller, but you couldn't rattle him. Couldn't rattle him at all. And it was getting that dummy close enough to him. It was really sharpening his feet up, and I was kind of starting to see a little action right there. Well, not bad. Get on my third one, dual ray, a little white in his eye, and I didn't realize it at the time. I've never logged anything on him before. And
you
the wind was
what
blowing.
You're going to say when you said Dore.
Yeah.
The wind was blowing that day, and I don't know why. I think it blew my gate shut. And when I started logging this thing, he didn't really know what was behind him. And when I come around there and I looked at him, and they come eye to eye with on the dummy, this son of a gun bolted, and we're going into the 40-mile-an-hour wind, and the rope that I was logging that dummy with is across my horse's chest. And this smarty dummy is waving behind me like the frickin' American flag behind me, right? And all I can hear Trevor's voice was, he said, just make sure you don't, undally or something like that, where they kind of get away from it. So I got the jackpot locked down, right? I'm freaking going through the wind with this dummy.
At some point, self-preservation's got to kick in.
Oh, no, I held true. You told me to do it. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And almost died. almost died. I got to the back end, and I finally got this stupid son of a gun freaking throttled down, and I think the wind was blowing so much he couldn't hear it, or what, I don't know what, but I got pulled up, and I called Trevor and said, "Hey, have you been hitting any flack on that facing deal?" He's like, "Oh, not you too."
Yeah.
I said, "Could you tell me maybe a little better way to kind of introduce these things into facing?" Yeah, maybe just log a stick first or something. But,
Well, I tell you, everybody wonders like why the rope horse industry has experienced such growth and continues to, and it's just been such a rise. And they're like, but it's been an underserved industry for so long as far as this piece of it. I mean, because you got the cow horses, the cutters, the reiners, and they all have a great futurity system, a great young horse program, but they don't have the great top end that we do. We've had this, we've had the exact opposite that all these other industries have. We have the World Series of team roping. We have professional rodeo. We have amateur rodeo. We have junior rodeo. We have all these things for the finished product that these other industries really don't have. Because if they're not a stud or mare or whatever at these other disciplines, not taking anything away from them, but they don't have the infrastructure up top that we have to filter all these horses through. So you know as well as I do, you may have a horse that's a little dull and may not have the zing that some of the pro guys would want, or some of the higher caliber ropers would want, and may not even be the perfect futurity horse for us, frankly. But if with the right program and the right training, they may be the best horse that a number 4 or number 5 could ever ride or ever find. And I think that's what's going to give this industry the longevity, and that's why you see the growth. And so, like, people act so confused when they see it, like, how did this happen, or why is this growing so much? And to me, it's been a gaping hole that's been lacking for so long, and now
I totally agree.
We're catching up with quality horse flesh. We're getting information out there on how to actually make these horses great, and that it is something that is attainable, and bringing something other than just what the team roping stuff has always seen, like actually putting some style to it and elevating it a little bit, if you will.
I totally agree with that, because I when I retired, there's a couple buddies of mine and stuff that they were talking about looking for horses, and I'm like, why wouldn't you just go get like a 12-year-old horse, man? You don't need all that, stuff like that that's green or whatever. And he's like, just go try to find one.
Yeah.
He's like, and then so I'm like, I never actually really thought about that, in the fact of there's so much saturation with ropers. There's so many ropers between the USTRC, the World Series, everything you just named. And what I think this is doing a really good job of filling that void of making more horses. But then, like I say, when your guys' horses are done with the futurities, that's why I like the judging on it so much, is because they're ready to go.
Yeah, they've been held accountable for the quality of their
season.
Performance.
And then the longevity you're going to have when they age out as a 7-year-old is, there's a lot of longevity for somebody looking for a dang good rope horse.
Yeah, and you said it yourself. In 2017, I sat in the stands and watched the futurity, bought one of the horses there. It is a great place to go shop. Even for me, when I wasn't involved in it, I couldn't help but notice that there's some great horses down here. And like I say, I was one of the customers. And fast forward that, I'm retired and I'm still in that part of the industry because of the growth of it. But this was something good happening down here and building long before we got involved. It's just shed more light on it.
So for some of the guys out there, some of the people out there, ropers out there that are wanting to learn how to train their horse better, wanting to learn roping techniques and things like that, you guys have outlets out there, right, on roping.com.
Mm-hmm.
There's ways you guys can get on that and follow that. And because I know I watch a lot of you guys' tips on social media. So how do you logged on to just get on to roping.com and you can walk your way through it right there to where you guys
just got to get a subscription to roping.com, which it's not just us. There's other professionals on there. Mm-hmm. But we're just kind of the horsemanship piece of it more so but they have, there's a lot that comes with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's where technology has gone nowadays too, where somebody can learn so many different things. It's amazing
Mm-hmm.
where it can go nowadays. But
Yep.
well, thank you guys. I appreciate your time. Thanks for letting me come rope. Thanks for giving me some tips. Appreciate it. It was it's fun to watch your guys' horses, and got good futurity this weekend, and then next month a lot of guys are going to be getting geared up headed to Utah, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yep. We're ready for it.
Awesome. Well, do good out there, and you guys be safe. And thanks for your time.
You
Thanks,
bet.
Chuck.
Thanks, Chuck.